I'm grateful for your statement. Land has always been one of the greatest sources of conflict ever since the world was created. If you go back in the history, you will find out that if it is not land, probably it's women that will cause conflict. Honorable Minister, I'm standing here to confirm my support for your policy statement. And in supporting the policy statement, I would like to also state that sometimes it's always good never to underrate the portfolio that you hold, because that is the mother of all portfolios. Remember that the factors of production is labor, finance, and land. And the initial two can never function without the latter one, which is land. Therefore, you must always remember at the back of your mind that you are the minister of the country where this land, Zambia, is defined. Land possesses the forestry that you spoke about, it possesses the minerals, it possesses, in short, the entire endowment that God gave us as a people, inhabitants of this country. Therefore, I would like to argue that your ministry or portfolio is much more important than all these portfolios put together, including the Ministry of Finance. The land administration in this country has been haphazard for a very long time, Honorable Minister. Being the parent ministry, you have given agents to manage land in the name of local authorities. And I put it to you that your ministry requires to button up the act in order to give strict supervision to the local authorities. There has been rampant abuse of the disbursement of land, and it has even degenerated away from what I call the colonial hegemony. Because don't forget that when the colonialists came here, they are the ones who first brought the land policy of defining land to say this is crown land, this is or state land, and this is traditional land. And what they did, they first took the first 30 kilometers on either side of the railway line and called it crown land. It belonged to the Queen Victoria, I think, those days. And we've been embedded in this colonial hegemony in administration of land up to this moment. I put it to you, Madam, that your ministry has inherited problems, which problems, if you sorted out, you are going to remain in the annals of this country's history as the woman who sorted out the corruption that is in this particular area of our domain, the land. There's too much corruption at council level. There's too much illegality, even at central administration level, in acquisition of land. One thing that should remain at the back of your mind every step of your way in your tour of duty is that there are people who were born on this soil who should be the first call in terms of ownership of land. And it should never be the issue of the definition of the emptiness or the fullness of their pockets, because God was not a fool to raise them in this particular part of the world called Zambia. The issue of titling, you know very well, has been acrimonious. I'm very glad from your report, which you have given, that you seem to be now in harmony with the Royal Highnesses, the chiefs. In the last time that I engaged you, Honorable Minister of Lands, I gave you an advice at a forum such as this one, and personally, I walked to where you are seated, and I told you, Minister, you try to scale down to the headmen in terms of the administration of land. I told you that. There will be certain Royal Highnesses who are a little bit adventurous. Take a look at Barosiland. what a pride. In Barossa land, you don't go playing around with land. They'll stop you. Go to Western Province, even as a Zambian, and simply say, I want a plot. They'll ask you many questions. But the rest of the country has now degenerated by politicians, by foreigners, by those who hold instruments of power, by those who look after the interests and aspirations of people who they govern. Because of land, do not forget you cannot go into a bank to seek finance without you producing what you call the title deed. You spoke about the national titling program. It began as a pilot project, and now you've said you've gone nationwide. I want to put caution to you, to your ministry, that as you go ahead with the titling, let's make sure that the processes begin with the headman. I'm speaking to you as a fully fledged headman, Nkombo, who runs a village under Chief Mwana Chingwala's jurisdiction and looking after more than 500 people who report to me. We have had many cases of chiefs or chiefs' agents who go selling land, go to the council, bribe the people who are in the council, and then go to the ministry through the back door, get numbering, and then get title. Before one knows it, they are a squatter at their own ancestral burial site. That should be a reason for you to worry. Take a leaf from the way the Barossa people have administered land. And there lies in the difference that you cannot go toying around in Western Province and say, I want 16,000 hectares. They'll first look at you from head to toe and say, where the hell are you coming from?
Honorable Member Hale.
Where the heaven are you coming from? I withdraw the word hell.
That's better.
I put it to you, Mr. Chairman, and you, Minister, that the people of Western Province shall remain, by the time posterity arrives, they will remain the most wealthy people because they will still have one collective possession called land. They don't play games where land is concerned. They know very well. Now, here it has become more devastating than one would actually imagine. Before, and I don't know why, maybe it's deliberate, we have been operating under this 1985 land circular. And we've been grappling with finding a land policy that will be sustainable, that will see us up to the end of time. When Zambia got independent, I think there were 4 million of us. And now we are 16 million. And truth of the matter is that land is not growing. It's still the same. And people are getting titles. They're getting titles on a daily basis. And I want to tell you now that the express nature of you getting your title depends on the size of your pocket. If you do not have money, you can stay for 5 years pursuing a title deed, and your officials in the ministry will be playing hide and seek until such a time you wake up and find, oh, this title now belongs to Mr. Hu Jintao. Because now, ever before, we have found out that even Chinese people own title in this country. We know very well, we don't have to be taught, even a kindergarten student, pupil, knows that in China, they are full. They are full. In China, that country, China, there's more than 2 billion people now, nearly half of the world. They are full. They don't even have a square meter. You talked about forestry, Honorable Minister. These are some of the things that I really urge you, in your interministerial chats called cabinet meetings, you have to interrogate each other very well to ask yourself questions to say, how on earth did someone put a beacon with Chinese writing in the Chichele plantation? Just tell me how. How did anyone find themselves just behind Dagahama Shore Memorial Site, putting beacons and written in Chinese language, which we all can't understand? And when we who are charged with the responsibility of doing checks and balances on you say you have sold the land, Muna land shichunga, you have sold the land, then you rush to the police to arrest us. Seriously speaking, if you go into Chichele plantation, we are told speculation. No, they are doing a mining survey, a geological survey. The point is that it is still a colonial hegemony type of governance, because we all know that underground rights supersede surface rights. So if there's mining that is going to be going on in that Chichele plantation, don't come and give me a story, because I went through it all myself in the constituency that I represent. When the Albidon Mine project was starting, we displaced people. I had a fight with the late President Levi Manawas over that land, and Minister, you are aware, because you were in the opposition, and you held my hands together to say they cannot give all this land to these Australians. We managed through a court process to retrieve 1,000 hectares of land from that investment. In your response, I would like you to be categoric, and I beg you, Shako, tell me why there are beacons in Chichele plantations, so that we can stop the speculation of saying you have sold land, you have sold Zafiko. And for those who don't know, Zafiko is the one that's running the Chichele plantation. These are serious issues. You need to reserve land for the generations that is going to come after us. The issue of the 1985 circular of not issuing more than 250 hectares of land by the Royal Highnesses, and that only one individual, the president, can issue above 1,000 hectares of land, had its own implication. It was meant to save the generations that are going to come after us. But here we are. It's now free for all. Definitely, the issue of the poorer will get poorer was just a biblical statement and not a policy statement. No. And that the richer will get richer. We have to stop you who are trying to use land to be richer than everyone else, and thereby widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots. We have a duty to ourselves to make sure that we are here for the true purpose for which we were elected, to look after the interests and aspirations of those people who can't come here. Year in, year out, we are talking about Mau land administration. As I conclude, Mr. Chairman, charity begins at home. If there is a party that has the worst record of land administration or maladministration, of arbitrary collection of land, where cadres just go and start mapping on their own with shovels and brooms, and it is PF. Question,
Order, honorable member, you can't say that.
if there's a party...
Honorable member, withdraw what you have just said. Question here, Nyok.
Question for your mom.
We can't allow that.
I withdraw that, but a question for your mom. Maybe it sounds more decent.
No, it's not even necessary anyway. Because question is what is allowed.
I withdraw, sir. I withdraw.
To question in this house, it is allowed. It is parliamentary.
I withdraw.
And therefore, especially when you are debating, somebody can only question you. I think the honorable member who questioned you was very much in order than you saying that. Anyway, you have withdrawn.
Thank you, sir. I withdraw. They are in order, sir, only to the extent that it's permissible here. What is going on outside there is that PF, boys and girls in PF...
Order, honorable minister, honorable member on the floor, just to debate the ministry.
Yes.
So far, so
boys
good, you have
and
done
girls
very well.
in PF, very unruly, go sharing land in the name of PF. That is a fact. Go sharing land in the name of PF. But now it became institutionalized. You spoke, Minister, about the issue of Mukula trees, the forest. Again, it is PF, the scandalous PF, that Mr. Chairman, that Mukula Mukula was one source of revenue at domestic level. The Royal Highnesses, the chiefs, they had entered into trade agreements with these Chinese who are buying Mukula. They were getting money to pay school fees for their children. The government decided to ban that instead of regulate it. If I were in government, I would have said, let's put a regulation to this, so that our people can enjoy the natural endowment that God gave them in Mukula tree. Instead now, all we read about is that there are scandals. And unfortunately, Honorable Minister, because you are the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, your name, unfortunately, has been mentioned so many times, including this one here, seated. And
Order, Minister. Honorable Nkombo, you see, area owner had indicated, take your seat, Honorable Minister. That's why I'm here. I think
there should be no harm. It also includes me. In this fiasco, they named me to say I was working with PF.
Honorable, you know very well we don't debate ourselves. And that is not necessary anyway. Move away from that and conclude your debate.
Minister, I wish you good luck. I want you to succeed. But take note of these things that I've said, because it will be better for you. You can't tell me to sit down.
Order, Honorable.